So a lot of these questions we went over on Tuesday, but we're just going to go through them all again today. So the first three, these are all perfect squares. So if you need to, you can break it down into the factors, but sometimes with perfect squares, we may just be able to do it right off the top of our head if we are comfortable and familiar with our perfect squares. What is the square root of 49?
7.
Awesome, 7. What about the negative square root of 9? Perfect, negative 3, because the square root of 9 is 3, and then we just have to make sure we keep that negative in our answer too. And then for number 3, we can't add these together yet. We have to simplify them first. What's the square root of 121? 11, and the square root of 25? So we have 11 plus 5, which is 16. Awesome. All right, for number 4, so these are not perfect squares here, so we actually need to break it down and simplify. What are 2 factors of 54? 9 and 6, and 2 factors of 9? 3 and 3, and 2 factors of 6? 3 and 2. So with square roots, we need a pair, just like you have a pair of shoes, so we have a pair of 3s here. Only 2 get circled. So whatever gets circled comes to the outside. Whatever doesn't get circled stays on the inside. What if I have 2 numbers that don't get circled? What do I do to those? Multiply them. So 3 times 2 would be? So our answer is 3 square root 6. Any questions there? All right, number 5. What are 2 factors of 18? 9 and 2, and 2 factors of 9? 3 and 3. What gets circled here? The 2 3s. So what comes to the outside? A 3. What stays on the inside? 2. Awesome. Whatever doesn't get circled has to stay on the inside. And then for number 6. So for 6, we multiply the 2 whole numbers together. So what's 2 times 3? 6. And then we multiply the 2 radicals together. So that would be the square root of 2 times 8, which is 16. If you wanted to, you could leave it as 2 times 8 and then break it down from there. So we could have left it as 6 square root 2 times 8. And then we were just going to find the factors anyways. But we got lucky here because we know what the square root of 16 is. What's the square root of 16? 4. Perfect. Because that's a perfect square. So lastly, we have 6 times 4, which is 24. All right, next, we're still simplifying. What should we do for number 7? What should we do first? We can't divide because we can't divide 4 by 9. So, awesome. So I'm going to separate my radicals here. So I have the square root of 4 over the square root of 9. And now from here, we can simplify. What's the square root of 4? And what's the square root of 9? 3. Awesome. So separate your radicals and then just do it separately. Just do one at a time. Do the top and then do the bottom. Let's look at number 8. So just like number 7, we're going to separate our radicals. So the square root of 25 over the square root of 49. What's the square root of 25? 5. And what's the square root of 49? 7. Awesome. Any questions there? All right, for 9 through 12, we're adding or subtracting when possible. So in order to add or subtract square roots, we need the square root to be exactly the same. If they're not the same, we can't add them together. So for number 9, our radicals are exactly the same, so we just subtract the coefficients. What's 6 minus 5? 1. So we'd have 1 square root 3. So the radical part stays the same in our answer. Do I need the 1 in front of the square root 3? No. It's like saying 1x, and we don't need a 1x. doesn't mean it, because like if we had 1x, we don't write the 1 in front of the x because that's the same thing as just saying x, because it's implied that there's a 1 there. So you just don't write it because it's like 1 times square root 3, which is just square root 3. All right, number 10. Can I add these together right off the bat? Why not? The radicals are different. The inside, the radical parts are not the same. Let's simplify and see if we can make them the same. Can I simplify square root 2? No. Can I simplify square root 8? Yeah, what are 2 factors of 8? 2 and 4. And 2 factors of 4? 2 and 2. What gets circled? 2 2's. So what comes to the outside? 2. And what stays on the inside? 2, because that 2 didn't get circled. What did I already have on the outside?
4.
A 4. So now I have 4 and a 2 on the outside. What happens to the 4 and the 2? I multiply. Awesome. So 4 times 2 would be 8 square root 2. So we have 3 square root 2 plus 8 square root 2. Now can I add them together? Yeah, because they're both square root 2. So we add the coefficients, we add the numbers out front. So what's 3 plus 8? 11, and that square root 2 just stays the same. So 11 square root 2 is our answer. All right, let's look at 11. Can I add these together right off the bat? No. We need to simplify first. So square root 5 cannot be simplified. Let's simplify square root 45. What are 2 factors of 45? 9 and 5. And 2 factors of 9? 3 and 3. So what gets circled? The 3's. What comes to the outside? The 3. And what stays on the inside? The 5. Perfect. What did I already have on the outside? The 8. What do I do now that I have a 3 outside and an 8 outside? Multiply them. Don't forget about that number outside. So 8 times 3 would be what? 24 square root 5 plus 9 square root 5. We just bring that guy down so we can add them together. Can I add these together now? Yep, because my radicals are the same. What's 9 plus 24? 33. And is my answer just 33? 33 square root 5. The radical part stays the same in your answer. So you just add the 2 coefficients together, the radical stays the same. Number 12 is the same. We just need to break down each radical separately because we can't add them together yet. We need to simplify it to see if we have the same and then add together whatever our like terms are. So we have the square root of 98. What are 2 factors of 98?
49.
Awesome, 49 and 2. If it's an even number, you know 2 is going to be a factor. So if it's a big number that you're not really sure what goes into it, automatically, if it's even, you know 2 will go into it. So divide it by 2, break it down. So maybe it's a smaller number and you know the factors of that. What are 2 factors of 49? 7 and 7. So what gets circled here? 7's. What goes to the outside? 7. And what stays on the inside? 2. Can I move on to the next one? Am I done there? I have to multiply that negative 5. So what's negative 5 times 7? Negative 35. So we have negative 35 square root 2.
How do you know which one to put inside the...
Whatever gets circled, like it takes a circle to come outside. So whatever gets circled, just one of those comes to the outside. The other one kind of goes away. Like it takes 2 to get out. And then whatever doesn't get circled, so that 2 has to stay inside. And then you're just looking at like all the factors of it. So like just the bottom row of numbers, not like We're not looking at 49 because 49 broke down. Any questions? All right, let's do the second part. What are 2 factors of 80? 2 and 40, that works. If you said 8 and 10, that would work too. What are 2 factors of 40? 2 and 20. 2 factors of 20? 2 and 10. You could have said 5 and 4, that would work too. What are 2 factors of 10? 2 and 5. Perfect. So what gets circled here? 2 pairs of 2's. So how many 2's come to the outside? 2 of them, because I have 2 circles. So each circle means that's a whole number that comes to the outside. So because I had 1 circle there, another circle there, 2 2's come out. What stays on the inside? 5. And then what else am I missing? Awesome, I still had that -2 outside, so that gets dropped down and gets multiplied. What is -2 times 2 times 2? Awesome, -8 square root 5. Now let's look at the third part. So we're doing the same thing. What are 2 factors of 180?
36 and 5.
I'm going to do 2 and 90, just because I heard that first. But you could have also done 18 and 10. You could have done 36 and 5. That would work too. 2 factors of 90.
10 and 9.
10 and 9. So I'm going to drop down that 2. 2 factors of 9. 3 and 3. And 2 factors of 10. 5 and 2. What gets circled here? The 2 3's and the 2 2's. So even though the 2 2's aren't next to each other, we still have a group of them. So we circle them. What's going to come to the outside? The 3 and the 2. What stays on the inside? 5. And then we also had this 3 that we need to bring down and include on the outside. What is 3 times 3 times 2? 18. So here I have plus 18 square root 5. Now I'm going to add these 3 together. Can I combine all 3 of them together? No, why not? Because the square root of 2 is not a like term with the square root of 5. So we can add these 2 together. But that square root 2 does not go with them. So what's -8 square root 5 plus 18 square root 5? 10 square root 5. And then I can't combine that -35 square root 2, so I just include it in my answer. So that would be my final answer. So you could have written your answer as -35 square root 2 plus 10 square root 5. These are the same thing. They're both correct. Just make sure like that negative sticks with the 35 and the 10 square root 5 is positive. Let's look at 13. 13 through 15, we are rationalizing the denominator. What does it mean to rationalize? When we're rationalizing the denominator, what are we doing? We are multiplying, but what's our goal when we rationalize? Awesome, we want to get rid of the square root in the denominator. So our final answer cannot have a square root in the denominator. If it still has a square root, then you rationalized wrong. So we did 13 in class on Tuesday, but let's do it again. A couple different things we could do first here. What would you guys suggest? Awesome. Let's rationalize first. So we're going to multiply the square root 27 on the bottom. What else do we have to do? Multiply on the top too. So we have to multiply the square root 27 to rationalize. It has to get multiplied on the top and the bottom. We have to do the same. So on top, I have 27 times square root 27. And then on the bottom, what's square root 27 times square root 27? 27. Now we rationalize, but we can simplify this a little bit more. What can we do to simplify? They cancel out. 27 divided by 27 ends up just being 1. So because I have a whole number 27 and a whole number 27, we can divide them. If I was just to have, let's say, square root 27 divided by 27, could I cancel these out? No, because one of them's in the radical. So you can't simplify a radical with a whole number, okay? You can only simplify a whole number with a whole number. So this one does not cancel. Just make sure you understand the difference between those. It's a common mistake that people will make. You have to simplify the whole number with the whole number. Can't do it inside the radical. So the 27s cancel, and I'm left with square root 27. Now we can break it down from here. What are two factors of 27? 9 and 3. Two factors of 9. 3 and 3. What do we circle? How many 3s? 2 of them. So what comes to the outside? 3. What stays on the inside? The 3. So our answer is 3 square root 3. All right, let's look at 14. What should we do first? What do we do to rationalize? Same thing. What am I multiplying? Square root 5. Whatever is in the denominator, because our goal is to get rid of the radical in the denominator. So on the bottom, what's square root 5 times square root 5? 5. Perfect. On the top, what's square root 13 times square root 5? Perfect. Because they're both square roots, we can combine them together. So this would be square root 65. So when multiplying radicals, you can combine them together. Doesn't matter what number they are. Just multiply the two inside numbers together. Can I simplify any more? No. Because we can't divide into the radical with a whole number. So we are done with that one. Any questions there? All right, let's look at 15. What should we do first? I can multiply. Does anybody see anything else I could do first? We can simplify the square root 25. So let's do that just to make it a little bit easier for us. That way we're not multiplying 25 times 6. What's the square root of 25? 5. So we're evaluating the square root. We get rid of it. Square root of 25 is 5. So we have 5 over square root 6. I still have a radical in my denominator, so I still have to rationalize. What do I do next? Now we multiply the square root 6 on the top and the bottom. So on top, I get 5 square root 6. What do I get on the bottom? What's square root 6 times square root 6? 6. Can I simplify this? Nope. Because we don't have any number that goes into 5 and 6 that we can simplify. So notice the difference between 14 and 15. With 14, I was multiplying two radicals. So I multiplied the numbers together and kept it under the radical. For 15, I'm multiplying a whole number and a radical, so that whole number stays outside of the radical. Yes. So we simplified square root 25 right off the bat, because our two factors of 25 are 5 and 5. So we'd circle the 5s, and the 5 comes out. All right, 16. We need to evaluate the expressions. We had questions like these on the quiz. What does a negative exponent do to our number? It flips it. So before I can evaluate that -2 as the exponent, so the power of -2, I have to flip it. I need to get rid of that negative in my exponent. So I flip it. So I put 1 over -8 to the second power. So when I flip it, the exponent becomes positive. What is -8 to the second power? -8 times -8. 64. So our answer is 1 over 64. So don't forget the negative exponent flips it. You need to flip it before you can evaluate. All right, so for 17, what should I do first? Flip it. Because I have a negative exponent, I need to flip it before I can evaluate. So that becomes 1 over -4 to the third power. Now we have to be careful here. What has the exponent? Just the 4. We don't have parentheses here, so it's just the 4 that has that exponent. So what is 4 to the third power? 64. Perfect. And that negative just stays out front. So it'd be -64. So we don't have parentheses here, so it's just the 4 that has that exponent, because the exponent's only touching the 4. If we had parentheses, then it would be -4 that has the exponent. Okay, let's look at 18. What should we do first here? Lauren. Awesome. We don't like negative exponents in our answers, so if we see a negative exponent, we want to flip it. So if it's on the top, we bring it to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, we bring it to the top. So I have a to the 7th power. That one was positive, so we keep it where it's at. I'm going to bring the c up, so it'd be c to the positive 5th power now, over b to the positive 6th power. All right, and lastly for second to last. What should we do? Distribute. Let's distribute the -2 as our exponent to everything. So I have x to the power of -3 to the power of -2. Y to the power of 7 to the power of -2. What do I do when I have a power raised to a power? Multiply. So it'd be x to the power of what? 6, positive 6. Because a negative times a negative turns positive. And then y to the power of -14. We don't want negative exponents in our answer, so what do we have to do? Flip which one? Flip the y. The y goes to the bottom because it's negative. So x to the 6th power stays on top, and y to the 14th power goes on the bottom. All right, now lastly, let's look at 20. What should we do first? We can distribute. What else could we do? We can get rid of z. That works. Z to the power of 0 is just 1, so it goes away. A lot of people on the quiz changed it to z to the power of 1, but it's not z to the power of 1. It's just the number 1. So if it has the exponent of 0, it goes away. And now it's just z that has the exponent of 0. So it goes away. What else can we do? Lauren, what did you say? Perfect. We can combine the x's and y's together before we distribute the exponent. So this x on top doesn't have an exponent. What does that mean that the exponent is? 1. So I have 1 minus 5. What's 1 minus 5? -4. So x to the power of -4. Now let's do the same thing with the y's. What's the exponent on the y down at the bottom? 1. So this would be 4 minus 1, so it's y to the power of 3. Now this is still all raised to the power of -3. Can't forget about that exponent. What do I do next? Distribute. What do I do when I have a power raised to a power? Multiply. So this is x to the power of what? 12. And y to the power of negative 9. Am I done? I got to move the y to the power of 9 on the bottom. So x to the power of 12 stays on top, and y to the power of 9 goes to the bottom.